did my boy Gilgamesh really just die from overworking himself? So after the credits there, he gets a little upset being like, man, I'm actually really dead here. I never thought I would be laughing at Gilgamesh's death, but gotta leave it to Fate Grand Order. They find a way to both blend the cliche into something either hilarious or really interesting. And man, Fujimaru, I think, has a harem level that goes beyond New Game Plus. This man should not be this good at recruiting goddesses, but you gotta give him credit where credit's due. I once again had to pause the episode when, after doing something so stupid, so reckless, literally going up to the heavens basically to then charge head first because he realizes that this goddess actually likes humans and you really have to have that connection to the soul. He gets another harem member. If this wasn't Grand Order, I'd be cringing, I'd be rolling my eyes, but it's hilarious how they just take that cliche and embrace it, and then in return you get situations you normally wouldn't see, like a group of goddesses and servants walking back to King Gilgamesh. Like, it's kind of fantastic for as cliche as it may seem at surface level, but you gotta love Grand Order for its moments like these. This was a surprisingly action-packed episode. Like, I was expecting action, but I wasn't expecting it to take up a majority of the runtime. And to my surprise, once again, it just blew me away. Like, I love the idea that the axe that they were all going to basically get for King Gilgamesh was, I mean, there's no way you're fitting that into the palm of your hand. It's going into the gate of Babylon for sure. So it was nice to see, like, something so ridiculous, and then of course you have to go up against a goddess who is going to wipe your ass and then some. Because, I mean, what are you gonna do against this crazy girl? Like, not much. So I thought the idea of giving him a goal of like, hey, get up the steps, smash this thing, and that's how you're gonna win. I was like, okay, that's actually a realistic way to overcome something that clearly, even with Ishtar and all these goddesses and, servants on your side, how are you going to defeat it? At best, you're gonna be able to get a couple of wounds on her. And so it was nice to just see the combination of all these abilities kind of go at it and just, they were kind of in sync. It was looking pretty well, but then with every attack, she would either just take the blow, not even face her, or she'll just catch the weapon between her fingers. Like, she was an absolute boss while just smiling and having fun throughout the entire way. And that's what I really like about this character, is because there's something so insane about having someone this powerful who is grinning just like, she's a schoolgirl. She's just happy to have friends around her. I actually really like the design because it kind of goes hand in hand with, Fujimaru seeing something that the others didn't. Like the whole idea that the doctor, the person who's kind of talking through him through the comms all this time, was saying, hey, ignore her, smash the thing. And then you get the whole backstory about how he was actually a part of a Holy Grail war and he's clearly keeping secrets, so maybe we shouldn't trust him. So I thought it was an interesting idea of both saying, okay, we know this may be a little cliche, the whole idea of being like, you're going to charge headfirst into the enemy because you want to mend their heart. You've seen that 1,000 times over, but the idea that they tied it into a more serious narrative of like, hey, the person who's giving you your orders saying, trust me, you have to obey my orders, also is keeping secrets. So that actually does explain why Fujimaru maybe goes in his own direction and kind of disregards orders, even if, it's kind of selfish because he is humanity's last hope. Should he fail, literally the universe is kind of screwed. So kind of like a balance. On one hand, you think he's being cliche and stupid, but then on the other hand, you get something that in return allows for the cast to grow in a pretty fascinating way that you wouldn't see had Fujimaru just kind of roll with the punches and then just did his own thing, or did what he was told by both his opponent but also the people above him in terms of just status and power. So I like how they're able to incorporate so many like gimmicks that honestly generally piss me off, but I was like laughing, I was having fun with it. And the whole idea that you do have a character who does kind of embrace and acknowledges like what he's doing is pretty much what an isekai protagonist's dream is. Just someone who's trying to kill him, you know what? You understood me on a personal level. I'm going to join your crew. I'm probably going to try to marry you. Like, it's so ridiculous. And I think the reason it works so well is because it's Fate Grand Order. You're literally bringing in so many different personalities, mixing and matching with gods and goddesses. Like, it just kind of feels natural to have so much absurdity mixed in with the serious. And when it does go serious, it doesn't like just incorporate a bunch of gimmicks more often than not. So it kind of allows each of the little sides of Grand Order to stand tall by itself. So it can be ridiculous. It can make me laugh. It can make me just so... what? Questioning, is this even reality? Am I dreaming right now? But I'm kind of embracing the absurdity to then getting insane action, insane actual serious moments. And like, yeah, it's funny to think that Gilgamesh probably just died from overworking himself, but clearly that's going to play a part. It's not like it's the last we're ever going to see of him. Clearly he's still, he's in the underworld of some degree, so maybe there'll be a little interesting rescue arc or something like that. It'll be interesting. So so you can balance that serious, balance the comedic, and just in return, just expand your harem and not make me criticize it, which you're rarely gonna see me do on this channel, but somehow Grand Order and this absurdity just makes it feel so perfect all in the process. And I just love how badass but also ridiculous this episode was. And something that I've really come to appreciate, and I haven't really realized I've enjoyed it as much up until this episode, but little Ishtar and Fujimaru conversations at night, they're surprisingly wholesome. Like, yeah, obviously there's the whole, like, embarrassed, flustered, and, pinching the cheeks, playing hard to get. That's, everyone's seen that coming and seen that 1,000 times over. But I do like the idea of humanity's final master who just overworks himself day in and day out, probably gets 2 hours of sleep at best on any given day, and just really has the weight of the universe on his shoulders, and having to make calls that go against his top level orders, but believing like he is in the right. The whole idea of just having someone to chit chat with at night and be able to just pass out on her lap. Like, yeah, that's like a classic anime scene. The character falling asleep on the girl's lap, and it's like, oh, is it going to be a will they, won't they relationship? But like the idea of the exhaustion and burden that this character is going through, it actually allows for something pretty sweet and wholesome, while also once again hinting at the whole double personality, double person angle, as depending on like sunrise, sunset, something to that degree, the hair color, the personality in general changes, right? So there's always like more hints and kind of foreshadowing and clues, while also just giving a character who deserves a break. Like, obviously some people are going to want to say, oh, Fujimaru's literally surrounded by a harem, there's his break. What are you saying, Brandon? But the whole idea that they're playing it up more as a gimmick and a joke to just kind of embrace the absurdity that is the anime medium, just kind of rolling with it, incorporating it to attract the people who just want that stuff, while also just being hilarious for someone like myself. So to give someone an actual, like, honest and real moment to just say, hey, they're clearly friends and this guy clearly needs a break, it's a nice moment to kind of tie it all together, as this episode was absolute batshit insane for its combat. I mean, this girl literally single-handedly took on this entire cast. It's kind of insane, and I'm glad that it wasn't just defeat her. You'll want someone like that on your side, especially the idea of the escalation in terms of what we're fighting so far. I think you're going to need as many helps as you're going to get, and I mean, even though he's probably going to have a little fight and a little more pouts than usual, as you can see Mosh and all the other characters. They're pouting a lot more. The pout game is going through the roof because of all the competition for them, but still, like, you need it for the narrative if you're going to combat some of the scenarios that are going to pop up in the long term. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I did hear that possibly the next 2 weeks are going to be like, there's going to be no new episodes. I think they might be doing recaps, which would make sense if true, because, well, this is a 21 episode anime. If they want the remaining episodes to actually carry through like 2.5 months of the next season, they're going to have to take a bit of a break. And I actually thought they're just going to carry through. So if they do like 2 weeks break, I actually, even though it would be disappointing we can't see more right away, I wouldn't be shocked. I would rather have more Grand Order to watch in the next season than just have a couple of months at best, right? So I know it's going to probably disappoint some if true, and I haven't seen official confirmation as of yet. Maybe by the time this review goes up there will be. So whether they do the break or they don't do it, either way, I mean, we're going to get more Grand Order sooner rather than later anyway. So I just wanted to bring that up just in case it is true, because then some people will be like, oh Brandon, why didn't you review it, or where is the episode, as people tend to do with this channel. This episode, and just honestly the past little chunk of Grand Order, it feels so weird but so perfect all at the same time. Like, I believe if I'm remembering correctly in the game, like, there's usually a couple of options in terms of like Fujimaru's dialogue, like a little more serious, and then obviously, I mean, a lot more ridiculous, right? So I do like how, even though like the good first chunk of this anime was a lot more serious, and he still does have his serious moments, I do like the incorporation as they've done it so far with the more absolute absurdity and completely anime parody almost in a lot of ways. It kind of gives it this fresh identity that, like, even though the setting already plays a good part of like saying, this doesn't feel like a lot of fates. It's not just a holy grail war. It's literally like singularities and like the universe as a whole at stake. So it already has an interesting story hook to make it feel different than a lot of those grail wars and things like that a lot of people have grown burnt out on. And even myself, I've been burnt out on Fate before. It wasn't until Lord Elmaloy that kind of restarted my love for Fate, as it was just an interesting direction. So to me, the idea of like really pushing what a Fate anime can look like, not like just introducing the whole flustered and, cliche personalities, but rather like embracing it, and then in return it turns into something actually unique and fulfilling. You don't see that too often unless you're watching a comedy parody. So for me, even though these aren't typically things I love about anime, they're not bad either. Like, even though it can be a little cringy looking at some of this, it does in return become something so couldn't show this to just anyone, but at the same time, a diehard Fate fan, or even maybe a newcomer to the world of Fate, probably would get a kick at it just because there's so many elements that you typically associate with really bad anime being applied in such a fresh way that I just kind of eat it all up. And I could completely understand if this is too much for some people, as I could understand with maybe last week's episode or just some of the more out there moments. But it feels so good to see something so absurd and have me actually enjoy it. And not enjoy it because it's a so bad it's good. No, I legitimately think it's good despite incorporating such predictable ideas, but then in return, because you incorporated them and actually rolled with it, your characters embraced it or got frustrated by it. It then in return lets your characters walk back to Gilgamesh's lair, and you're like, this couldn't have happened unless you had a more cliche setup to then in return get something with a very interesting and unique conclusion. Like, it's baffling. It really shouldn't work for me. I should be hating this episode, but I love it. And I know I'm not going to be alone saying that. Like, obviously there's going to be people who just eat this type of stuff up all the time, but I would truly be shocked if there isn't more people in a similar situation as myself, as typically you don't like this type of stuff, but just the way Grand Order is executing it, both with its serious, comedic, and silly, but then also it's more mundane, it just kind of feels unique, and I wouldn't mind seeing more anime take this approach, but I guess you'd have to have some form of like summoning from past and present to be able to have it work as elegantly as we currently are seeing. But overall, like, this was a good episode. It just really feels good to know that no matter what angle this series is going to give me, I'm probably going to love it more often than not, and even when I don't love it, there's so much that I do appreciate about this series that I can't even look too negatively at something that may not be for me, but you know, there's so much that is for me, so it's like, that's not even really all that important in hindsight, or at least that's how I'm feeling. But what did everyone think of this episode of Grand Order? I would be really curious for sure. How are you feeling about the growing harem angle? Are you kind of digging it like myself, or is this just like, alright, we need to tone it down? Whatever anyone is feeling, do let me know down in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't been new. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.